Cable Bahamas Limited became a VAT registrant and is mandated to charge and collect VAT on behalf of the government of the Bahamas. Effective January 1st, 2015, VAT will be added at a rate of 7.5% on all your rev services. As a result, VAT will be included on all your statements beginning January 2015, and you will be required to pay your bill in full inclusive of the VAT. To learn more about the inclusion of VAT on your rev services, visit cablebahamas.com/VAT.
The latest job figures released today, they show an increase in unemployment. A PLP MP threatens to campaign against two of the constitutional amendment bills. A newly appointed QC criticizes the selection process. Plus, the DNA calls the VAT rollout a titanic failure. We've got those stories and a whole lot more tonight. I'm Vonnie Toot and NB12 starts now. Topping news tonight, the Bahamas' unemployment rate has increased to 15.7%, according to the latest labor force survey conducted in November 2014. Both New Providence and Grand Bahama experienced increases in unemployment, while the number of discouraged workers increased in New Providence. Officials say the recent implementation of value-added tax could negatively impact employment going forward. Unemployment in the Bahamas increased from 14.3% in May 2014 to 15.7% in November 2014. The survey references the period October 27th to November 2nd, 2014. In New Providence, the unemployment rate grew from 15% to 16%, while Grand Bahama's unemployment rate jumped from 14.7% to 18.6%. The Department of Statistics also conducted a survey in Abaco, which recorded an unemployment rate of 20.3%. Statistician Cipriano Winter says while the total number of discouraged workers decreased, New Providence saw an increase in discouraged workers.
The number of discouraged workers in the country decreased from 4,880 in May to 4,560 in November 2015. In New Providence, while there was an increase in the number of discouraged workers, 22%, the reverse is noted in Grand Bahama.
The number of discouraged workers in Grand Bahama decreased by 55%, while Abaco has approximately 320 discouraged workers. That's people who are not considered unemployed, as they have stopped looking for work because they feel there are no jobs available. Director of Statistics Kelsey Dorsett says some Bahamians had high hopes for job opportunities last year, but it just didn't work out.
Things didn't pan out as well as they would have wanted it to be. Then they withdrew once again. Lots of activities that were going on, but you know, you would have applied, you would have done whatever, and so that could result in that the number of increased persons. You also had persons who were laid off during the course of the year, all right, and they could have become, you know, despondent.
The unemployment rate for people ages 15 to 24 continues to be considerably higher than any other age group, standing at 31%. We asked officials if the January 1st implementation of value-added tax could impact employment going forward.
If, for example, businesses are experiencing the VAT and VAT is causing their the business expenditure to increase, that might lead them to lay off persons or whatever, right? VAT probably might have some impact.
Despite VAT uncertainty, Dorsett says a number of projects are coming on stream, including the March 27th opening of 3 of Bahamar's resorts. The survey shows that 31,540 people were listed as unemployed. That's 17,145 women and 14,395 men. The results also show that 81,900 women were employed and 87,600 men were listed as employed. Winter says the labor force increased by 1.8% since the last survey that was conducted in May 2014.
The labor force now totals 201,040 persons. There was an increase in both the number of employed and unemployed persons. However, the growth in the number of unemployed persons exceeded that of the employed. This resulted in the unemployment rate increasing from 14.3% in May to 15.7% in November.
8,850 net jobs were added to our economy since May 2012. The number of people employed in May 2012 was 160,650 compared to the 169,500 employed in November 2014. In other news, one of the people spearheading the educational campaign ahead of this year's constitutional referendum has expressed concern over the fate of the gender equality vote. This after a PLP MP threatened to campaign against two of the constitutional amendment bills if they are passed in the House of Assembly. Kai Joaquin reports.
I would like to know that the people representing me, both government and opposition, that the people representing me believe in full equality between the sexes like I do. So yes, I have that concern that way, and I'm a little bit concerned where in the 21st century Bahamas we still have leaders in our community, parliamentary leaders in our community who are not convinced that that's the way to go.
Former cabinet minister and now one of the leaders of the educational team for the upcoming constitutional referendum, Theresa Moxie Ingram, says she is a bit concerned as to the fate of the upcoming referendum, but hopeful. Moxie Ingram says when it comes to this vote in Parliament, she hopes education trumps politics. Marco City MP Greg Moss told the Nassau Guardian yesterday that he would openly campaign against two of the four constitutional amendment bills if they are passed in the House of Assembly. Moss has been against the wording of Bills 2 and 4 since day one. Bill 2 seeks to enable a Bahamian woman who marries a foreign man to secure the same access to Bahamian citizenship that a Bahamian man enjoys, while the most controversial Bill number 4 would make it unconstitutional to discriminate against someone based on sex. Moss told the Nassau Guardian regarding the constitutional bills, "I don't think those bills will be passed in our House because I don't think there is a sufficient majority. But if those bills are passed in the House, I for one will campaign nationally against Bills 2 and 4 because those Bills 2 and 4 are ethically and morally against what we represent as a Bahamian people." Prime Minister Christie has already indicated that he will not hold a referendum unless there is unanimity between the government and the opposition. Two opposition MPs, Nico Grant and Hubert Chipman, have already said they won't support the bills until the wording is changed for questions 2 and 4. And according to Moss, there are other MPs who feel the same way. Well, Moxie says there is clearly political mischief in the midst of public discussion on the bills, and she hopes the political aspirations of some don't come in the way of there being a successful referendum on gender equality, which she says is long overdue. But at the moment, she said she is concerned and somewhat confident at the same time.
Concerned because for me this is the second time around at this, and I want to feel and know that this time there will be great success. So yes, I'm concerned that way. No, because I believe we have grown, our appreciation for the need for equality has grown over the last almost 15 or so years since we tried to do this the first time. I see a growing awareness, I see a growing appreciation, I see a growing acceptance, and acceptance even from some quarters where I had been thinking there would be opposition, and I see acceptance. And so from that angle, I'm not concerned.
Moxie Ingram says what she thinks Christie meant by unanimity is majority support from both the government and the opposition. The educational team is led by Moxie Ingram as well as retired Justice Ruby Nonage. The pair has traveled around the country in preparation for the upcoming referendum. Moxie Ingram says generally people seem to be satisfied with the wording of the questions. She added that they've been running into engaged audiences who want a breakdown of each question, but at the end of the day, according to Ingram, understand. So where does this all leave the referendum?
Well, the Education Committee continues. We start, in fact, back on full schedule as of next week, as of next Tuesday. And we have the remainder of the Family Islands to do, and a number of engagements that we have to still complete here in New Providence.
Now, the government has already indicated that the referendum should take place no later than June of this year. But again, Prime Minister Christie has indicated that it will not take place unless there is absolute unanimity between the government and the opposition. Reporting for NB12, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
Days after he was appointed Queen's Counsel, former Attorney General Carl Bethel has criticized the selection process, telling NB12 today it lacks transparency. Dana Smith tells us more.
I think it is unfortunate, perhaps, that the structure we have now in terms of selecting Queen's Counsel is apparently, or could be seen to be, driven by the executive, and less so by the Bar Association in terms of having control over the process. And certainly other countries like the United Kingdom have made reforms in order to address these perceptions, which, you know, may or may not hold water.
Cabinet Office announced 11 attorneys, including 3 cabinet ministers, were appointed Queen's Counsel this week. Deputy Prime Minister Philip Brave Davis, Attorney General Alison Maynard Gibson, and State Legal Affairs Minister Damien Gomez are among the newest QCs, as well as Attorney Maurice Glinton, who back in 2009 took legal action against the Ingram administration after it failed to name him QC. He claimed then Prime Minister Hubert Ingram removed his name from the list. Bethel told NB12, some people feel the QC selection process is too political and lacking transparency. Furthermore, he said the nation's QC selection and appointment process doesn't occur frequently enough.
Certainly with a politically driven process, the appointments of Queen's Counsel has been sporadic, as the history would show, and intermittent, and not really with the desired levels, I think, of regularity and transparency.
Bethel said it's very desirable to have both hierarchy and incentive in the legal profession. He said this can be accomplished in part by regularizing and depoliticizing the QC selection process.
If honorific titles such as Queen's Counsel are few and far between, you're removing a potential very beneficial and productive incentive from the rank and file of the legal profession.
Bethel said in the United Kingdom, new QCs are considered on a yearly basis. He suggested that should happen here, although he noted the number of appointed QCs would be fewer than 11. Bethel's comments about the appointment process are similar to those of attorney Wayne Monroe, who was also appointed QC. He said Maurice Glinton's case proves the decision should be made by the Chief Justice, not the Prime Minister. He said, I have no doubt that you will have a lot of back and forth over this list, but if it were vested in the Chief Justice or an independent selection committee, then those things could not be said. Reporting for NB12, I'm Dana Smith.
And from the courts, one of the most wanted suspects in the Bahamas was arraigned in the magistrate's court today, days after he was arrested. 25-year-old Jamal Eggy Gibson appeared before Chief Magistrate Joyanne Ferguson Pratt and was charged with 1 count of murder, 3 counts of attempted murder, and 5 counts of assault with a deadly weapon. 5 other men were also charged today. Simone Davis has the details.
One of the most wanted men in the Bahamas finally had his day in court. Gibson, who was arrested on Monday after months on the run, was charged with the murder of Ricardo Moss on September 19, 2014. He was also charged with the attempted murder of Carlos Lam, Damian Gibson, and Ashton Barrington. Gibson claimed that when police arrested him, they dragged him from under a bed, a gun butted him, and stomped on him. He claims they also let a police dog loose on him and told him they wanted to kill him. Ferguson Pratt made a note of his allegations. He had no counsel and was remanded to Her Majesty's prison until March 23rd. Also in court today, James Philistine and Rodnell Polidor were also charged with the murder of Sean Kemp on Madeira Street in the capital on January 4th. 2 other men, Ricardo Richardson and Devin Roll, were charged with accessory to the murder of Sean Kemp after the fact and assisting Polidor in escaping police. And another man, Michael Mackey, was charged with the murder of Randy McNeil on New Providence on December 29th. They too will appear in court on March 23rd. Reporting for NB12, I'm Simone Davis.